welcome to Behind the Story. I'm Colleen Dulle, a producer here at American Media in New York City. Every year, hundreds of thousands of pro-life activists participate in the March for Life in Washington, D.C. to call for the overturning of the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision that legalized abortion. America reporter Vivian Cabrera is on the ground covering the event for America. Welcome to the show, Vivian.
Hi, Colleen. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. As we begin today's discussion, I want to take a moment to remind our viewers that you can send us your questions for Vivian through Facebook or Twitter, and we'll try to answer as many as possible here on the show. So Vivian, you've spent the day speaking with people at the march. Can you tell me a little bit about who's there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been here all morning speaking to people at the march. And it's really been a variety of ages, from a lot of families tend to bring their very young children, to high school students, college students, also people who are a little bit older. And they've been from pretty much all over the place. We met a few Canadians, people from around the area, Maryland, New Jersey. We met a few of those. People from California, Boston. So really been a really good, diverse group of people that we've seen so far at the march.
Have you got a sense of the religious diversity? I know this march is not officially a religious event, but often draws more religious participants.
Correct. Yes, we definitely have seen a lot of Catholic groups, for example, parishes that bring their youth ministry, or a lot of Catholic schools, Catholic boys schools, Catholic girls schools who will bring a delegation. We've seen a lot of priests, people in habits, religious sisters, and also a few different denominations of Christians as well have been present here. For example, I met this group of Chaldean Catholics who were very joyful. They were just there was a bit of a delay to the start of the march, but they took it in good stride, started dancing, and it's been a really joyful event so far.
You mentioned the delay at the start of the march. I imagine that's probably because the march featured a prominent speaker this morning. President Donald Trump also addressed the rally that preceded the march this morning. I'm wondering if you can tell us what he said in his address.
Yeah, absolutely. So before the president came on stage, they mentioned, the March for Life leaders mentioned, he's the first president to have ever spoken at the March for Life. And it was a very positive, very pro-life message. He thanked, the leaders thanked the president for being pro-life and for everything he's been doing for life. And I'll just quote some of what the president said. He said, "It's an honor to be the first president to attend the March for Life." He affirmed kind of all the young people who attended by saying, "Young people are at the heart of the march. Your generation is the pro-life generation." So it's really been, it was a really positive pro-life message.
And Vivian, how did you sense that the audience was responding to this message?
There was a lot of cheering, a lot of clapping after the president would say a few lines, enormous clapping, enormous cheering. So I'd say for the most part, everyone was very excited to have the president here to speak at the March for Life, for sure.
Vice President Mike Pence also called into the march fresh off of a visit with Pope Francis. He had been in Rome with his wife, and they met the Pope, and then right afterwards called into the march. How did that go?
For sure. So this was right before, a few minutes before the president came on stage. So Mike Pence and his wife called in, like you mentioned, from Rome. And you can kind of see the backdrop of Rome, and they thanked all the Catholics. Mike Pence is Catholic. So they thanked all the Catholics who came from across the country in support of the March for Life. And he also mentioned that he was meeting with the Pope, and he thanked Pope Francis for supporting the pro-life message. And that was, of course, welcomed with enormous cheering and clapping as well.
Got it. Vivian, last year the march became associated with images of high school boys wearing Make America Great Again hats. Others were concerned with the march coming to be identified with the Republican Party so strongly, and we saw more of that today with Trump and Pence speaking to the crowd. I'm wondering if you heard from anybody who was maybe not so happy about the fact that the president and vice president spoke to the crowd.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that I or my colleagues who are here with me, I don't think we met anyone who was upset the president was here. For the most part, there have been a lot of Make America Great Again hats and flags. It's an election year, so of course it's hard to remove that from the president's appearance. So that's very vivid here in the people who have attended. So I didn't encounter anyone. We did encounter some protesters, but I think they were more protesting the pro-life message, not so much the president's appearance at the March for Life.
Counter-protesters, got it.
Yeah.
Vivian, the march has changed a lot over the years. I remember, the event used to include a lot of black signs with sometimes disturbing images on them. In recent years, organizers have made an effort to portray the event as more feminist. They say pro-life is pro-woman, and they've kind of pink signs. I'm wondering what the messaging was like this year.
Yeah, for sure. So the theme for the March for Life this year was pro-life is pro-woman. So that was just the general, they choose a different theme every year. And I saw a few of those kind of disturbing images, but not as many as have been seen in previous March for Lives. So I would say, it was very joyful. So marches weren't necessarily focused on kind of those disturbing images. And I do want to mention back to the pro women thing that the president also mentioned that in his address to the rally, to the March for Lifers. He mentioned that this year is the we're celebrating 100 years of the 19th Amendment that's giving women the right to vote. So he was also gave a very pro-woman speech. Today, women are using the power of their vote to protect the right to life. He said, "We declare that mothers are heroes. Your strength and drive powers our nation." So I think the fact that before the march started, that was kind of the president's message and the overarching theme. I would say there was a lot of pink signs, a lot of feminists. I spoke to a few pro-life feminists who kind of agree that pro-life is a woman's issue.
Got it. I have one more question for you. We've talked a little today about kind of some of the differences between the marchers. We've talked about where they came from and their different approaches. And I wonder if you could sum up for us, what is it that the marchers had in common? What brought them together?
Definitely. And I thought about this kind of throughout the day as we were encountering the different people. But I think at the end of the day, people here were just really joyful, and they wanted to be here to kind of support the pro-life message. Another part of the rally was, while pro-life tends to be a more conservative issue, which was clear by kind of the President Trump signs. The First Lady of Louisiana, so Governor John Bel Edwards' wife, was in attendance, and the governor is a pro-life Democrat. So that was also a very inclusive kind of at the rally, where it's, if you are pro-life, you're welcome here and we embrace you. So I would say joy and inclusion for a lot of the different kind of people who would be pro-life.
Yeah, Vivian, this also makes me wonder, we say pro-life, but I know that, at least in our coverage of America, that often means kind of a whole life approach, right? It's anti-abortion, it's also anti-death penalty. I wonder if you got a sense of that in the crowd today, or whether it was mostly anti-abortion.
I would say it was mostly anti-abortion. A lot of people had signs that talk about life begins at conception, or protect the small unborn children. I did also manage to speak to, so I was on the lookout for kind of signs that are a bit different, and I found a woman who I found her words really powerful. She mentioned she was bullied as a child, and that kind of made her aware of the other type of people who are vulnerable. So she was at the March for Life because she wants to respect and defend the lives of the homeless, or the elderly, those who are handicapped, and children. And I really like kind of speaking to her and seeing kind of the diversity of the pro-life message. But I would still maintain that the general message was kind of anti-abortion.
Right, which makes sense because the march was founded in response to the Roe v. Wade decision.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Vivian, that's all we've got for today. Thank you so much for joining us here on Developing Story Behind the Story, and thank you so much to our viewers at home also for joining us. For full coverage of the March for Life, you can visit americamagazine.org. You can also follow us on Twitter at AmericaMag. For American Media with Vivian Cabrera, I'm Colleen Dulle. We'll see you next time. I've never seen